Okay, so you want to own a theme park. Buy the land, build the rides, sell the tickets, watch families hand you their money for 8 hours of screaming. Simple business. But here's the part that breaks people's brains. The rides aren't the business. They're the bait. And by the time you understand what the actual business is, you're already standing in line for it. If you're picturing a theme park as a collection of roller coasters that happens to charge admission, you've got the entire model backwards. And that mistake is exactly why most people who try to build one go broke inside 5 years. The ones who don't go broke, the Disneys, the Universals, the Six Flags of the world, figured out decades ago that the coaster is never the product. They figured out where the land sits before they figured out what the mascot looks like. Stick with this one because by the end you'll never look at a theme park ticket the same way again, and you'll understand exactly why the company that owns your childhood memories is also, quietly, one of the largest landlords on the planet. So let's start where every theme park actually starts. Not with a ride, with dirt. Here's the part nobody tells you about theme parks. The single most profitable decision a park ever makes happens before a single ride is built, before a single ticket is sold, before the gates even go up. It happens the day someone buys the land. In 1965, Walt Disney Productions quietly assembled 27,443 acres of Florida swampland, cattle pasture, and scrub forest nobody wanted, for just over $5 million. That works out to roughly $180 an acre. To keep the price that low, Disney didn't buy it under its own name. It used shell companies with names like Empty Lot. Say it out loud. Empty Lot. So no landowner realized who was actually buying or why, or held out for a higher price. The plan worked for 18 months, until an Orlando Sentinel editor connected the dots in October of that year, and Disney had to confirm the story before it wanted to. Now here's the twist inside the twist. Disney didn't just buy the land the park would sit on. It bought 47 square miles, an area twice the size of Manhattan, while the actual theme park itself only needed a fraction of that. Why buy 40 times more land than the rides require? Because Disney wasn't just building an amusement park. It was buying a real estate position it could control for the next 100 years, in a location it knew would only get more valuable once the park made the surrounding land desirable. And to make sure no local government could ever tell it what to build, Disney convinced the state of Florida to hand it the Reedy Creek Improvement District, its own autonomous government, with the power to write its own zoning laws, run its own utilities, and approve its own construction. Disney didn't just buy the land. It bought the right to never ask anyone's permission again. That's the first hidden mechanic of theme park economics. The rides sit on top of a real estate holding so large that the company running your childhood memories is underneath one of the largest private landowners in the state of Florida. Every hotel Disney builds later, every parking garage, every future expansion, all of it sits on land bought for less than the price of a house today. The park isn't the investment. The park is what justifies owning the land underneath it. Let's do the math on what that means in practice. $5 million, adjusted for the decades since, is a rounding error against what that land is worth today with 4 theme parks, more than 24 hotels, and an entire self-governed city sitting on top of it. Disney didn't need Walt Disney World to succeed to make money on this deal. The land alone would have made the purchase worthwhile. The park was the bonus. The rides are the fantasy the guest pays for. The land is the fortune the owner was always building. So if the land is where the real money sits, why does every theme park still spend hundreds of millions of dollars on roller coasters? Because the rides do have a job, just not the one you think. Here's what nobody tells you about a roller coaster. It is not a revenue generator. It is a piece of marketing that happens to also be a machine. The cost climbs in 3 distinct tiers, and each one buys the park a different kind of headline. Tier 1, a mid-sized family coaster, the kind built to keep the widest possible age range happy, runs somewhere between $2 and $10 million. Tier 2, a genuine steel thrill coaster with real height and real inversions, runs $10 to $30 million just for the track and the trains, before you've paid for the land it sits on, the foundation work, or a single dollar of theming. Tier 3, push into fully immersive territory and the number changes shape entirely. Disney's Expedition Everest, An artificial mountain built from 38 miles of rebar and 10,000 tons of concrete. Cost roughly $100 million for one ride. Dark rides with animatronics and custom show sets routinely run $40 to over $100 million each before they've sold a single ticket. Now compare that to what the ride actually earns. A roller coaster doesn't have a price tag at the entrance. It's included in the ticket you already bought, which means every single coaster in the park is a $100 million asset with a built-in revenue ceiling of exactly $0 in direct sales. So why would any rational business spend that kind of money on something that can't be sold? Because the coaster was never being sold. The coaster is what gets you through the gate. And once you're through the gate, the real transaction hasn't even started yet. Think about what a new record-breaking coaster actually does for a park. It doesn't print money by itself. It prints headlines. It prints a spike in single-day ticket sales the month it opens. It prints a reason for someone 3 states away to book a hotel room for a trip they weren't planning to take. The ride is a customer acquisition tool wearing a $100 million costume. And the return on that investment isn't measured in ride revenue, because there isn't any. It's measured in how many extra people walk through a turnstile because of it. That's the second hidden mechanic. Every thrill ride in the park is a depreciating, non-revenue-generating asset that exists purely to justify the price of the ticket that gets you near the things that actually make money. The coaster isn't the business. The coaster is the advertisement for the business, one that happens to cost more than most people's houses. So, building a business empire out of swampland and steel is one thing. Doing it consistently across a chain of parks for decades requires the kind of systematic approach we're about to get into. If you're finding this rewiring how you think about businesses you thought you already understood, that's exactly what this channel is for. Hit subscribe, and you'll catch every one of these breakdowns as they go up. Anyway, if the land is the fortune and the coaster is the advertisement, what does the actual money get made? It gets made in the 11 hours after you've already paid to get in, because that's when the park stops selling you thrills and starts selling you thirst. Here's the number that should genuinely surprise you. In the most recent reporting from the newly merged Six Flags and Cedar Fair, now the largest regional theme park operator in North America, legacy Cedar Fairs and park per guest spending, meaning food, drinks, merchandise, games, and extra charge attractions, hit nearly $60 per person in a single quarter, on top of the ticket they'd already bought. At the legacy Six Flags parks in that same window, guests spent over $61 per head across admissions and in park purchases combined, with in-park spending alone climbing 5% year over year, even as attendance patterns shifted. Read that again. The in-park spending, the stuff that isn't the ticket, is climbing on its own, a separate revenue engine, growing at its own pace, largely independent of whether attendance goes up or down. Why would a company obsess over a 5% shift in food and merchandise spending when ticket revenue is right there, sitting in plain sight? Because the ticket is a one-time transaction, negotiated in advance, often discounted through a season pass. In-park spending is negotiated a dozen times a day, guest by guest, with a customer who is hot, tired, hungry, and standing in a location with exactly one vendor selling water. There's no competitors stand 50 feet away undercutting the price. There's no walking to a different store to compare. Once you're inside the gate, you are, for the length of your visit, standing inside a walled economy with a single seller and captive demand, and every price inside that wall is set with that fact firmly in mind. This is the part that separates a theme park from almost any other retail business on Earth. A grocery store competes on price because you can walk across the street. A theme park doesn't have a street. It has a fence. And behind that fence, a bottle of water, a fried snack, a plush toy, a locker rental, a skip-the-line pass. Every one of those is priced not against a competitor, but against how much discomfort a guest is willing to sit in before they pay whatever's being asked. That's not a coincidence. That's the entire pricing strategy. Break the walled economy down, and it's really 3 separate profit centers stacked on top of one ticket. Profit Center 1. Food and beverage, where a bottle of soda that costs pennies to produce sells for the price of a meal, because the alternative is walking a mile back to the parking lot. Profit Center 2. Merchandise, where a plush toy or a t-shirt with the park's logo on it carries a markup no ordinary retail store could get away with, because it's not competing with Amazon. It's competing with nothing. Profit Center 3. The pass around the pass. Parking fees, locker rentals, and express or skip the line passes that let a guest pay extra to escape a wait time the park itself controls. Notice what all three have in common. None of them are optional in the way they're designed. You can skip the merchandise. You can't skip being hungry, needing your car, or standing in a line. The park has every incentive to make just long enough to sell you a way around it. The ticket gets you through the gate. Everything after the gate is where the real business begins. So if the fence is doing that much work, controlling every price, capturing captive demand, funneling guests toward the one water stand for 6 hours straight, running it should be close to pure profit once the park is built. It isn't, because the same fence that lets a park charge monopoly prices for a bottle of water also comes with a set of costs almost nobody outside the industry accounts for, and they hit constantly on a schedule the park doesn't control. Start with labor. A theme park's staffing needs don't look like a normal retail business. They look like a seasonal spike drawn as a mountain. A regional park might run a skeleton crew of a few hundred through the winter and then need several thousand temporary workers for a 100-day peak season. Ride operators, lifeguards, food service staff, ticket takers, hired, trained, and safety certified in a matter of weeks for jobs that vanish again by September. That hiring cycle happens every single year at scale, whether the previous season was profitable or not, and every one of those seasonal hires has to be trained on safety procedures for machinery that, unlike a cash register, can seriously injure a guest if a step gets skipped. The park isn't just hiring cashiers for the summer. It's building an entire temporary safety certified workforce from scratch, twice a year, forever. Then there's the maintenance nobody sees on a brochure. Every ride in the park is a piece of heavy industrial machinery that carries human beings at speed, which means every ride is subject to daily inspection, scheduled non-destructive testing, and constant repainting and recertification, costs that don't stop when the ride is old news and stop bringing in new visitors. A coaster built for $30 million doesn't just sit there depreciating quietly. It demands ongoing maintenance, spending for the entire time it's open. Whether it's the star attraction or the ride, everyone's already forgotten about. And then there's the cost line most people never think about at all: weather. A theme park doesn't manufacture on a factory floor with a roof over it. It sells an outdoor experience on a schedule to guests who won't show up in a storm. In its own third quarter filing, the newly combined Six Flags and Cedar Fair openly cited extreme weather and shortened operating calendars as a direct hit to attendance and revenue that quarter. Not a hypothetical risk buried in a footnote, an actual, reported dent in the numbers. A park can build the best coaster in the world and still lose a chunk of its season to rain nobody budgeted for. Here's what that adds up to. A theme park's profitability isn't just a function of ticket price and per cap spending. It's a bet on a fully staffed seasonal workforce showing up on time, on a ride inventory passing every inspection without an expensive failure, and on a sky that cooperates for 100 straight days a year. Get the land right and the rides right and the pricing right, and the weather can still take a bite out of the whole operation before a single mistake is made. The fence controls the prices. It never controls the sky. There's a fourth cost sitting underneath all of this, and it's the one that makes every other number in this video possible in the first place: insurance. A theme park is, structurally, a business that convinces people to strap themselves into machines built to feel dangerous. That single fact shapes the entire cost structure behind the scenes. Six Flags has disclosed spending roughly 0.5% of its total revenue on insurance alone, while carrying coverage up to $100 million. And for a large operator, that percentage translates into a line item running anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 a year, sometimes more, before a single claim is ever paid out. That's not the cost of something going wrong. That's the cost of nothing being allowed to. And the reason that number exists at the size it does isn't hypothetical. In 2016, a water slide called Verrückt, built to be the tallest in the world, killed a 10-year-old boy at a Kansas water park, and the resulting settlement exceeded $20 million. One ride, one incident, $20 million, on top of the insurance premiums that were already being paid before it happened, on top of the ride being permanently removed and the park's reputation taking a hit that no marketing budget can undo. That single case is the entire reason every other coaster in every other park gets inspected daily, tested on a schedule, and insured at a level most small businesses would find absurd. The industry doesn't carry that kind of coverage because regulators force it to. It carries that kind of coverage because the alternative, even once, is the kind of number that erases years of per cap spending gains in a single afternoon. So what does all of this look like when you scale it up to the size the industry actually operates at today? 2 case studies, and they tell almost opposite stories about the same business. First, the merger. In 2024, Six Flags and Cedar Fair combined in an $8 billion deal to become the largest regional amusement park operator in North America, more than double the reach of either company alone. The logic behind it wasn't about building new coasters. It was about combining Six Flags' aggressive ticket pricing strategy with Cedar Fair's stronger in-park spending model, spreading fixed costs like corporate overhead and purchasing power across a much bigger footprint, and reducing exposure to any single region's bad weather in any single season. It was, in other words, a real estate and operations consolidation dressed up as a theme park story. Precisely the kind of move you'd expect from a business that understands its own economics are really about land, pricing power, and scale, not thrill rides. Second, the opposite bet. In 2025, Universal opened Epic Universe in Orlando, the first major new theme park built in the United States in more than 2 decades, for an estimated $7 to $7.5 billion. Not a portfolio of existing parks bought up for efficiency. A single brand new park, built from nothing, on 750 acres, wagering that guests will pay premium prices to walk through 5 fully immersive, licensed IP worlds rather than a park stitched together from generic rides. Universal didn't just build attractions. It built land it can develop for decades. Reports already point to hundreds of acres reserved for future expansion it hasn't even announced yet. Same underlying model as Disney in 1965. Buy far more land than the day one park needs, and let the park itself justify owning it. 2 companies, 2 completely different strategies. One betting on scale and efficiency across dozens of existing parks. One betting everything on a single era-defining new build. And underneath both of them, the exact same foundation. Land bought ahead of demand. Rides that exist to justify a ticket price. A fenced-in economy where every purchase after the gate is the real business. And a set of costs, labor, maintenance, weather, that never stopped compounding no matter how good the last quarter looked. The roller coaster was never the business. The roller coaster was the reason you walked into one. Which brings us to who actually profits from a theme park, because it usually isn't who you'd assume walking through the gates. It isn't the ride manufacturer. They got paid once at construction, and then they're done. It isn't really the guest, who leaves $100, $200, sometimes $300 per for a single day, having funded the ticket, the food, the merchandise, and the parking, and walked away with nothing but a wristband and some photos. The person who profits is whoever controlled the decision that happened before any of that. The decision about where the fence goes, how much land sits inside it, and how much sits just outside it, waiting to be developed once the park has made the neighborhood worth developing. Everyone inside the fence is playing the game the park designed. The only person actually winning it is the one who owned the ground the game gets played on. That's why a park can lose an entire season to bad weather, absorb a multi-million-dollar insurance claim, and still be, over a 20-year horizon, one of the most reliable real estate plays a company can make. The rides come and go. The per cap spending rises and falls with the economy. The land, bought decades before anyone else saw the value in it, just sits there appreciating whether the coasters are running or not. Now, if a theme park's real fortune is built on land bought decades before anyone needed it, there's another business that runs on almost the exact same trick, except instead of hiding the real estate play behind a roller coaster, it hides it behind a department store logo. That's the shopping mall. And the way a mall owner actually gets paid will make you look at every anchor store you've ever walked past completely differently.